Patch 0.4.0 is here, and it has brought with it new Flash, primarily for campaign enthusiasts. As I was encoding this video, patch 0.4.1 hit, so I figured I might as well include its content as well. Quick summary for the patch would be: almost totally reworked all campaign missions except for one that's largely the same, which I will not spoil. Some graphic updates for some Vanguard and Infernal units. Some changes to a few Infernal units. Some convenience changes for workers to make it slightly less punishing to not consistently produce workers and make it easier to replace them. And adjusted most units in the game to be a little faster, a little squishier and train more quickly. Unfortunately, the co-op missions has not been touched, however, but it's not the end of its support. There are new models in the game with balance changes, but they have not been implemented here. And the co-op section of the game has not had the same updates like charge-based worker production. The cup is half empty view is that co-op did not get an update. The cup is half full view is that maybe patch 0.5.0 will be co-op's turn to get a major overhaul. So that is just me hoping for such, not anything confirmed or hinted. The only change by the looks of it is that they have increased the commander experience you get as some compensation to easier get to commander level 20. Campaign. I will try to avoid any interesting spoilers. As I tried to play the first two missions, I encountered a bug in that I could not complete the mission. I got what I assume was the ending phase and the mission would simply not end properly after that. Exiting the mission with the menu would give me access to the next mission, so I assumed that it was actually the end and not just bugging the mission halfway through. The game is not flawless, still being in early access, but that is the only major bug I encountered. As stated, the story past the intro cinematic has been almost completely rewritten, becoming far more dystopian and apocalyptic. 5 of the missions has been scrapped and completely replaced, with mission monsters and bosses which you will come across. Between missions you will have a mission hub where you will get some exposition in the form of dialogue with characters by talking to NPCs with green crystals above their head. Completing bonus objectives in missions will give you credit, which you can spend to add quirks or upgrades to your units in the mission hub. There have been added more RPG and unit customization elements now for you to play the way you want. Throughout the mission you will now find more hero items, and from what I understand it is completely randomized. I tried to restart the first and second mission and I got completely different items, not just from micro bosses but stuff lying on the ground. Also it could be easy to miss, but in your mission hub there is an inventory stash which you can place items, or switch around to give to other characters. If you do like single player campaigns then between random loot and unit customization, then you should have some fun with replayability here with trying different playstyles. The first 3 missions are free for all players, and the 3 latter being around $10, and the future plan apparently being to make the first 5 missions free. If you're interested, then the first part of the campaign is there for you to try for free, and I think for founders or people that bought the previous mission pack, then this one will be accessible to you as if you purchased the previous one. Quick summary of general balancing. The starting units Hexen, Scouts and Morph Core has been removed. The increase in starting resources has been revoked. Workers are no longer conventionally produced, they are now instantly produced with charges for Vanguard and Celestial hosts, similar to Infernal Imps. Vanguards and Infernals store up to 5 workers in each headquarter, and Celestial hosts store 1 prism in each collection array. Most units has had their movement speed buffed and are trained faster. Most tier 1 units has less hit point and cost less, becoming more numerous and expendable. Most structures has had their construction time reduced, and Infernal's shield health has been removed, most of which has been compensated with more hit points, and Shroud now heals units that are outside of combat. Quick summary done, now for a little more details. For Vanguard, almost purely superficial, but arguably a big change. Bob is now gone and Servo has taken its place. If you've complained about the old Toys R Us looking worker, then this is hopefully something for you.
Systems nominal. How may I serve? You command? I am superior in every way. That model is now mostly obsolete. Perhaps you have heard of my former version, Bob. My predecessor was designed to mine beryllium in the outer perimeter. I am the latest upgraded version of the worker robot. Bob can eat my dust.
And as stated, the old servos are now instantly produced of charges that you get over time. Headquarters can only store up to 3 worker spawning charges now, and you gain 1 charge every 25 seconds. Medtech's System Shock ability now has slightly less movement speed buff bonus for friendly units. I'll be honest, I had no idea that it gave movement speed boost until I read this. Occupied sentry posts now have 50 less hit point, going to 400, while the Lancer's Buzzsaw cannon has gone down to 520. Movement speed changes for Vanguard before the respective upgrades. Lancer from 4.5 to 5.5. Exo, Medtech and Graven has been increased from 4 to 5. Scouts increased from 7 to 8.25. Hedgehogs increased from 6.75 to 7.75. Atlas increased from 3 to 3.5. Vulcan increased from 3.5 to 4. Hornets and Sentinels increased from 5 to 6. Evacs from 5.5 to 6.5. Helicarrier increased from 2.5 to 2.75. Vanguard's construction time, Habitat from 20 seconds to 10 seconds. Barracks from 40 to 30 seconds. Mech Bay and Hangar Bay from 45 to 30 seconds. Scrapyard from 35 to 15 seconds. And new models has been given to Hedgehogs, Hornets and Evac units. Infernals has had some fundamental changes to units and mechanics. As stated, with the shield health which has been removed, and now giving most units on Shroud 2 hit points per second. With the exception of bigger units like Harbinger which gain 3, Weavers gaining 4, Magmadon gaining 5 and Flayed Dragon gaining 9 hit point per second outside of combat. Infernal structures now also regenerate 1 hit point per second. And upgrading the Shrine will not increase health regeneration by looks of it. Shroud has had some updates and buffs. Shroud can now spread up ramps. It will now be emitted by all infernal structures. It will now show up on the map. A small detail is that it will now change trees that it touches. And infernal structures will now construct 50% faster on existing Shroud. The top bar resource Animus can now only store up to 200 down from 1000. Summon Effigy's Animus cost has been changed to 7. Shroudstone manifestation cost has been reverted back to 50. But its cooldown has been increased by 30 seconds to 150. Hellspawn Resurgence now states that you only get 3 imp charges when used on shrines, and you cannot use it to spawn fly dragons. And you now start with 25 enemies. The ability Infest has been rebranded to Curse and now spawns a temporary phantom if they die. This is effectively just a minor rebranding to distinguish the mechanic from Brute's Fiends. Imp's health has been changed up to 85 hit points, and shrines now hold up to 5 charges to spawn imps with. Brute's health has been changed now to 195. Cost has been increased by 25 to 150 luminite. Hitbox size has been decreased to 0.6. Attack speed has been decreased to 1.125. Attack animation time has been decreased to 0.375. The ability Sunder Soul no longer gives shield health to fiends. It will now double the movement speed bonus to fiends from 15 to 30%. The upgrades Soul Forge Ascendance and Sundering Soul Grace has been removed. The new ability, which has to be researched, Infernal Fury, is a charge ability which can stun the target on impact for half a second. This has a 2-second immunity phase, so you cannot perma-stun a target with chain stunning. And if this ability impacts on Shroud, then the Brute will gain 50% bonus attack speed for 5 seconds. Also, the Infernal Fury upgrade increases Brute's movement speed passively by 25%. It should be noted that this is a passive effect and not an ability you can cast, besides setting autocast on and off. At least I have not been able to actually cast it without autocast doing it for me. The Infernal Fury charge ability now increases movement speed by 200% up from 100, and its first attack animation will be drastically faster. Brute's weapon slop range has been increased from 1.5 to 3. Their weapon damage has been increased by 2 to 26. And last upgrade, Fiend's Lotion, will now make Brutes spawn 4 Fiends total, on death and when using Sunder Soul. Fiend's health are effectively the same, with the shield portion moved to health totaling 50 hit points. They now have a passive effect, reducing target's armor by 2 on weapon hit if you are fighting on Shroud. They now drop a corpse on death for corpse mechanics. And hilariously as the chaos might have been, Fiends can no longer be cursed and spawn up to 4 phantoms for your enemies in mirror matches. Phantoms are a sort of new unit which is spawned from cursed foes dying. They have a max lifespan of 30 seconds and they only have 30 hit points. Magmadon has had their hit points slightly nerfed from 480 and 120 shield to 540 hit points. Weapon damage has been increased from 30 plus 20 to heavy to 40 plus 25 to heavy. And Trample's damage has been decreased from 100 plus 80 to heavy to 100 plus 50 to heavy over 6 seconds. And their consumability now restores 25% hit point instead of shield health. Hellborn units has been changed from a siege unit to a single target anti-heavy unit. Their cost has been reduced by 25 luminite and 50 therium, totaling 275 luminite and 75 therium. Health has been nerfed to 240. Supply cost has been reduced from 8 to 6. Damage has been changed from 30 plus 30 to heavy and plus 30 to structure to 30 plus 45 to heavy. Their splash damage has been removed. Weapon attack speed has been reduced from 3 to 1.3. Range has been reduced from 14 to 10. And the upgrade Molten Touch has been slightly reworked, reducing healing on a target received by 90% and dealing 2 damage per second for 5 seconds. Gun's cost has been reduced by 25 luminite, costing 100 luminite and 25 therium. Their health has been changed to 75. They also no longer need to be upgraded to curse targets with their attacks if their target is on Shroud. And they also have a new model. Hexen hit point has been nerfed by 20 to 160. And cost has been changed from 100 Luminite and 75 Therium to 75 Luminite to 100 Therium. Shadow Flyers has their Bloodburst range increased from 1 to 3, and health has been slightly nerfed from 60 and 15 shield to 65 hit points. Spriggan has been changed to be a slightly more of a swarm unit. First of all, they spawn in pairs now. Their supply cost has been reduced from 3 to 1 each. Summoning 2 still requires 2 supply however. Health has been reduced from 160 health and 40 shield to 80 hit points. They no longer have the triple attack. Attacks has been changed from 3 plus 3 to heavy to 6 plus 3 to heavy. Spriggan's range nerf has been reverted, and they have a slightly changed model, nowhere nearly as altered as Brutes and Guns, but slightly altered. Weavers has had a flat nerf, going from 400 hit points and 100 shield to 380 hit points. Cost has also been reduced by 25 Therium to 125 Luminite and 175 Therium, and Consume now heals 25% of total hit points. Harbinger's health has been changed from 260 health and 65 shield to 290 hit points. Flayed Dragons has had a cost change in a major way by increasing the Luminite and Therium cost by 50 to 750 Luminite and Therium, and removing their animus cost. Now the Flayed Dragon hasn't charged from Elder Shrines, meaning that more tier 3 Elder Shrines will let you more frequently spawn Flayed Dragons. Elder Shrines cannot store more than 1 charge of Flayed Dragon spawning, unlike other structures' unit charges. Health has been nerfed slightly, from 800 hit point and 200 shield to 900 hit points. And Inhale Poison, renamed Blighted Feast, now restores health instead of shield. Also they have had some slight texture update to the unit. Shroudstone health has been reduced by 50 to 350. Wraithstone health has been reduced by 100 to 500. Shrine construction cost has been reduced by 50 to 300 Luminite. And new shrines start with 3 imp spawning charges. Movement speed changes, not factoring upgrades. Felhog, Brutes, Gauns and Hexen has gone from 4 to 5. Fiends has gone from 7 to 8.25. Magmadon and Hellborn has gone from 3.5 to 4. Weavers has gone from 3 to 3.5. Harbingers has gone from 4.5 to 5.5. Shadow Flyers, Spriggans and Flayed Dragons has gone from 6 to 7. Infernal's construction time is slightly confusing. Words as written, Infernal structures are built 50% faster than Shroud, but I cannot tell if this means that they have 2/3 of the construction time or half of the construction time. I knew that a period of time I spent addicted to Factorio would one day pay off. Okay, so I did the testing and the math, and how it works is that it cuts 1/3 of the build time off the construction time on Shroud, not 50% as the word would imply. For the people who want the actual numbers, here are they presented. And Celestial Host, they have gotten the least in changes. All top bar abilities only has 2 charges. The recharge time remains the same, but you only have 2 charges max. Celestial Host's production structures has gotten a nerf in that the prime system has been removed, meaning that an unit produced will not be teleported to a designated prime structure. If you want to connect bases, you can still use the Aeon gates however. Morph cores instantly train with charges, and you can have 3 charges per headquarter. Prisms are instantly trained with charges, having max 1 charge per collection array. You get 1 prism spawning charge every 90 seconds from each collection array. Argent's health has been reduced by 15 to 165. Training time has been decreased by 4 seconds to 24. And small nerf, the upgrade Longshot module's bonus range has been reduced from 3 to 2 for charged attacks. Kree cost has been reduced by 25 Luminite to 75 Luminite and 25 Therium. Health has been reduced by 55 to 175. Training time has been reduced by 4 seconds to 24 seconds. Kree nerf, when they reach 0 hit point and start Blaze of Glory, they can no longer increase movement speed with rollout. And if they are already rolling when they reach critical hit point, they will be reduced to running speed. Vector's anti-air damage has been reduced from 8 plus 8 to light to 8 plus 6 to light. Seraphim's health has been reduced by 15 to 165. Archangel's health has been reduced by 100 to 650. And Archangel's ability Avatar's bonus health has been reduced by 100 to 300. Scanner cost has been reduced by 25 Luminite, now costing 25 Luminite and Therium. Health has been reduced by 30 to 40. Strike Node health has been reduced by 30 to 320. And Warp Node has been reduced by 50 to 350 health. Movement speed buffs for Celestial Hosts. Argent's Kree and Grounded Archangels has gone from 4.5 to 5.5. Animancers has gone from 3.5 to 4. Cabal has gone from 4 to 5. Sabers has gone from 3 to 3.5. Vectors and Seraphim has gone from 5 to 6. Scanners and Scythes has gone from 6 to 7. And Flying Archangel's movement speed has been increased from 5.5 to 6.5. And lastly on balance side, Celestial Host building construction time. Note that these timers are for yellow power parameters. Power banks has gone from 15 to 10 seconds. Creation chamber has gone from 40 to 30. Starforge and Legion hull has gone from 45 to 30. Therium purifier has gone from 30 to 15. Guardian Nexus is the only one that has been increased, going from 45 to 50. Collection array has gone from 100 to 110 seconds. For people who like to train against the AI in custom games, the computer has been improved. By the looks of it, peaceful difficulty has been removed. The AI will now try to play a more coherent playstyle and actually try to get relevant upgrades for what unit composition it is trying to amass. It will now try to cast abilities and scout more actively on the map. For replays, a button has been added to find the file folder for replays on your computer. On the login screen, a button has been added to let you access replays without logging into the game. For the people who wanted the convenience, double-clicking on a replay can now be used to open replays. More preview information about replays. I cannot remember what it looks like previously, so I cannot comment on what was improved. An production queue has been added for replays and observers. I think that observers are non-participant people who watch in live matches. And vision switching for observers. I believe that this is for live matches so that you can limit yourself to see what one player sees. I think this is mostly for biological units, but for some reason under audio, Vanguard and Infernal units will be more visceral and impactful. Remove the audio setting VO. This is the volume setting for unit responses when you click on units and order them around, I believe. It has now been rolled into the slider SFX volume and an respective alternative to mute unit responses if you don't want to hear unit command responses. An alternative has been added to mute ambience. And I checked the campaign. Character dialogue is tied to the master volume, I believe, so you will have to adjust the other respective sliders after master volume if you want to fine-tune the audio balancing to your liking. Performance notes. Minimal spec hardware computers should no longer get stuck on loading screen when entering a map. Adjustments to quality benchmarks and fixed DLSS super resolution and frame generation settings. I am not entirely sure what this means, so I cannot comment on this. And fix some crashes with low-end computers when starting the game by the sounds of it. Lastly, before bug fixes, the cosmetics Fog of War aesthetic, glitch mode, and the Rizzy Kitty critter around your base has gone from Twitch drop exclusive to be possible to be purchased from the store. That's it for 0.4.0. I will quickly skim through the bug fixes to cover that for those who are interested. Now the announcer will give a voice prompt if you are trying to build something where you cannot place structures. Newly constructed central commands, shrines and arcships will no longer set a rally point to a nearby Ethereum deposit. Gaunt's sponsor attack will no longer prioritize jumping to arcships when ground units are within range. Charge and jump abilities should no longer get units stuck in terrain and objects. Cosmetic Fog of War shaders should now properly work in co-op. Riker should now take orders properly during his tuck and roll animation. Destroying players' workers and structures should now trigger an defeat. I am uncertain if this is only one or if it means that all the players, workers and structures must be eliminated in order for the defeat to trigger. A small detail in that ranged attacks will now send its projectile or beam into the structure itself instead of targeting the ground in the center of a structure. The Vanguard Skymine now has a new death animation. The Infernal's Shadow Cleft, from what I can read, will now properly display damaged visual effects as it takes damage. Celestial Host static defense structure strike node attacks will now be a little less bright. The minimap details are now larger and easier to see. Hexen's Death Scream will now be properly tied to the volume slider. Fixed inconsistencies in the impact of Imp's attacks. Commander Riker will no longer interrupt his own speeches. Saber's ability, Self-Repair, will now properly play its sound effects. Auralana's Stasis Core ability now has its own sound effect when used. If this refers to the ability that the unit's Stasis Core has or not, I cannot tell, and if it is the case then it's really subtle. The victory music that plays when you win a match will follow the volume slider, I'm assuming music volume. The countdown in the start of the match will now be tied to the SFX volume slider. When leaving the game previously, the audio would for some reason spike for a tenth of a second. This should now be fixed. Fixed an issue that caused hotkey presses and selection update to trigger an UI sound effect. If they mean that the wrong audio was played or not, I cannot tell with this. The Bodybot's toggle Build Army will now make less spellcasters and transport and more general combat units from what I can guess. The hotkey menu now has the top bar ability 6 present. You can now use Alt space for hotkey purposes. The reset hotkeys option should now work properly. Prisms should now be cancelled with its respective cancel hotkey when trying to stop them from being produced by the collection array. Same with the scrapyard, it should now cancel upgrades from being researched. The game should no longer think that the Alt modifier key is held down when you Alt tab or minimize the game. Previously, the game had problems with triggering multiple abilities if you had the same hotkey button with and without modifier key like Alt and Shift. The hotkey Assign All should now work properly. What this button does in practice should be to assign the respective ability to have the same hotkey across all units that share the ability. The best example being Return to Vanguard for Vanguard's aerial units. If this refers to the automated control group indicator toggle, then it means that you can turn it on and off the display that shows that you got a new unit added to a control group. The button Reset All Categories in control groups will no longer include resetting video and audio options to default. The spell unit Skull of Shadar from Hexen can now be added to control groups. Imps and morph cores that are used to be sacrificed in structures will now be removed from control groups when they start morphing. The game will now better read the hardware of your computer, and if you have a less powerful computer, it will be less likely to assign the graphics to ultra visual quality. Fixed an issue with FPS network stats blocking mouse input. I believe this refers to the bottom of gameplay toggle display stats overlay, which would prevent you from using that section of the screen. Hornets and evacs should be easier to select when they are hovering over a structure. I think this is a first time setup thing, but the frame rate limit option should be assigned to unlimited instead of 60. So you should check it to be safe after the patch if they've changed it. In the lobby with custom games, the host of the game should now be properly listed. The chatting in the game should no longer block mouse clicks. The kill counter for matches should now be more accurate. You can now target trees through Fog of War. This is likely for convenience for destroying trees or putting scanners into trees. Score screen statistics should now properly work when quitting a match and no longer stop tracking one player's resources gained. And when finishing a match, it should now always bring up the score screen. Structures should no longer show up as damaged when pausing and replay. The game should now resume after pauses if you switch mission on players while the replay is paused. Skipping back and forth in a replay should no longer crash the game. All replays in the correct folder should now show up in the game. Fixed an animation bug with skipping back and forth in a replay that caused building that's in the process of being constructed to not be completed. And 0.4.1's fixes. Fixed an issue where Fog of War would sometimes appear unusually dark, especially under certain hardware configurations. Fixed an early game multiplayer desync issue that could occur during the early stages of a match. Fixed an issue where Lancers and Exors did not receive the intended 20% health when they increased in veterancy. Fixed an issue where longshot modules gave Archons higher damage bonus than intended versus heavy units. Root's weapon sound effect has been lowered. The announcer's line, "Construction complete," will now be affected by volume sliders. This is something that hopefully the replay enthusiast will understand. Fixed an issue where the game would sometimes crash when attempting to launch a replay from an URL via Untapped, and replays will no longer desync when you skip back to the start of a replay file. That's everything for patch 0.4.0. I hope it was informative enough and that you're happy with some of the improvements and updates this patch brought. Stay intact and have a nice day.